Welcome to the first of the sessions which we have organized at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. My name is Shaheen Merali, and I have convened these three online events as part of my placement, in a sense, visiting professorship at the university. And I'd like to start by thanking some of the people who I've been involved with to set this up, but also to work together to make this happen. My colleagues at the university include the Vice Rector, Professor Barbara Putz-Plecko, who's been very generous with her time and her abilities to ensure that everything happens. The Rector, Gerald Bast, as well as the visiting Professor Aisin O'Neill. And tonight, we are in a very blessed situation to have two people who are technically facilitating these complex sessions. There are Sarah Cantado and Nagol Garashir, who have spent a lot of time, and I'm very grateful to them for spending this time to make this happen. I would also like to start by saying that my gratitude extends to Ramesh Daha for initiating the initial dialogue with the university about my research, and to Peter Putz, who has designed this wonderful poster for pax praxis. Now, just a few words about pax praxis. This is not the first attempt for me or for many of the people who are participating to try and grasp and to reflect on the radical management and possibly the experimental organizing of knowledge and research. The flows towards inclusivity or questioning systems of assessment and infrastructures have been central to my practice, both as an artist and a curator, and more recently as a researcher. Or maybe it's better said by Proust when he says, only that which is absent can be imagined. In many ways, I can suggest that some of the reasons why we convene or curate what remains important or urgent is to find a place for some of the things which we care about in the world. And what do we care about at the moment? We care about rearranging power. We care about our historical realities. We care about forms and organizational flows and the fluidity, which all act as some form of cultural address and political address at the same time. Many artists like myself call this work, but we actually add a suffix to it, artwork. Artwork more recently have become more entangled in the waves of relations and relationships. They're more agenda-based, yet we remain constrained by hierarchies that curtail, denounce, and sometimes eradicate in their former responses to our collective explorations. This was very evident recently in Documenta 15, which will be discussed extensively in our next presentation on May the 4th. The complex role of art, not merely a form of solidarity, is not a simple or even a direct link from the community or to the community. More recently, a lot of artists have tried to work out the double play of radical possibilities. And this was so beautifully summarized in a conversation that took place in 1979, this idea of radical possibilities between the artist David Mandela and Rashida Ryan, which was published in Black Phoenix, #3 in spring of 1979. Rashid says to David, what is then your actual role as a Black artist and a radical from the third world in this capitalist metropolis? This is in 79. David says, well, a subversive role, that's all. Subversion is different from a revolution or of a revolution. You can't be revolutionary here because you're part of the minority. You can only be subversive. You can be a carrier of new ideas, revolutionary consciousness. You can be a catalyst for all the latent creative forces. So tonight's panel partly was brought together to consider the making and materiality of making fine art, wherein the notion of self-contextualization and its power to assemble greatly informed artistic notations. This includes the body, technology, the innovation beyond the norm, the critical theories around race, gender, geographies, tracing the histories of philosophy beyond the Western trajectory, and working between temporalities and pedagogies. The three presenters may consider subversion as suggested by Mandela, but one thing is certain, is that they all allow us to establish a dignified context that is invaluable to reconsider the possibility to prioritize reception of certain forms and certain communities. For us to feel and to report on those invisible rumblings which carry on. And in turn, their work releases that latent premise or initiates a dialogue that had remained pending. The artists Vanya Gala, Chow Kai-fei, and Narendra Putz-Plecko have constantly reimagined, reinvented, responded to places that need interrogation, and considered the frontiers for forms, including the different responses to movements, which including acknowledging process of choreography, the impact of dance, as well as less canonized forms of non-Western practices, including capoeira, which has Anglo-Brazilian roots as a form of martial arts, which includes elements of dance, acrobatics, music, and spirituality. Lang Dong, a ritual practiced in Vietnamese folk religion, and Kathakali, a major form of classical Indian dance. Their research is to make art less privileged. And we know how difficult it is for us to change perceptions. So we, as a public community, remain grateful for such knowledge that contributes to our understanding. Furthermore, the three presentations propose different responses to contextual histories, which have been separated by imperial histories. All three presentations are centered on our relationship to the body and to technologies of empowerment, as well as traditional empowerment, memory and ritual. Here are rhetorical devices for faith and sustenance. These and other topics, of course, will continue in further 2 online presentations on the 4th of May and 6th of June, as well as an exhibition entitled The Evidence Room or Evidence Realm, which will open on the 27th of June at the IIL in Vienna. Now, I'm just going to take over and just take you into a bit of housekeeping. For those students who are listening, tomorrow's discussion with amongst us is going to take place in room Flux 2, starting at 11:30. Tonight's session will be recorded, and each artist will present for approximately 45 minutes. And we ask you, please, to keep your mics off and videos off if it suits you throughout the 3 presentations. We will have a discussion following the presentations, and please select the raise hand option. And I'll be guiding you for your request in the correct order. We also ask you to keep the questions concise so we can have feedback from all the speakers and answers to as many questions that the time allows. Thank you again for joining us. And what I'd like to do now is to just briefly introduce the 3 presenters who will speak about their practices, but I will introduce them in the reverse order. The final presentation will be made by Narendra Putz-Plecko, Welcome, Narendra. If you can just say hello to us. There you are.
Hello.
And prior to Narendra's presentation, I will give you a short bio. The second presenter will always be, out of the three, Chow Kai Fai. Welcome, Chow Kai Fai. If you can just say hello, thank you.
Hello.
We're here to learn about your practice, young man. And finally, the first presenter will be Dr. Vanya Gala. I would like to welcome Vanya, please. Great, thank you, Vanya.